What's up everybody, it's Joe here with Joseph Blake Photography, and in today's video we're going to be talking about the future of the RF mount lens system from Canon. We're going to talk about what they're going to be bringing to the table and what third parties might be bringing to the table, hopefully very soon. All right, real quick before we jump into the information that we have about the RF lens system and kind of the future of Canon lenses, a quick plug for the channel here at J Blake Photo, Joseph Blake Photography. That's me, I'm Joe. I just recently rebuilt my channel, was able to get it remonetized. Thank you so much for that. I'm able to make a couple of bucks every time I make one of these videos, which I do this as a labor of love. This is not my primary source of income. I'm not doing this for the money. I'd really much appreciate it if you think that this video is worth it to go ahead and hit the subscribe button, go ahead and hit the like button, and keep watching my videos. Also, you can find me down on Instagram and a bunch of other places, links down below, and I'm sure there'll be some bubbles or something or other. Enough of that self-promotion. Let's get to the information that we have today. Okay, first we have to talk about Canon mounts and the general history of Canon mounts, but I'm gonna do it in 30 seconds. So I'm gonna put a timer down here, and I'm gonna try to do this in 30 seconds. Okay, so first we're gonna talk about the Canon AE1. The mount is what you attach the lenses to. And on this camera, this is called the FD mount, and they sold FD lenses. That mount is basically just optics and the metal that it connects to the camera. We have the EF mount. Notice the pins down at the bottom, that's what makes it electronic. It talks to the lens. It's got pins on the other side. And then Canon came out with the RF. Notice a lot more pins down there. It's a much higher bandwidth connection, a lot more information. And this is the RF mount lens, and this allowed you to connect EF lenses of any brand. Now that's gonna be really important because all you had to do was really connect those pins together. There's some circuitry in there to make those work. So you go from, right, old cameras with no, and you can get mount adapters for these old lenses too. So basically, if you had this lens, right, this is my Sigma this is my Tamron 24-70 f2.8. I love this lens. It's 10 plus years old. It still runs beautifully. I still use it for lots of stuff. I do not own the Canon version. I've never owned the Canon version of this lens, but I have tried it out and I didn't find the, at that time, 2x cost to be worth it. And that's sometimes the advantage of these third-party lenses, is that you can get great technology and great specs in a lens for a lot less than what Canon sometimes charges for their name brand lenses. And then I'm able to put this same lens on my RF cameras like the R6 and the R just by using the little adapter. I have a couple of these. I'm currently shooting on a Sigma 35mm f1.4 art. I love this lens. It's one of my favorite lenses of all time. And I use it using the adapter and it works perfectly fine for me. Now, when the RF system came out, there were a lot of questions about third-party lenses and whether or not Canon was going to support them. They would be willing to negotiate with third-party vendors, with third-party lens manufacturers like Sigma, like Tamron, if they wanted to, and they would do it kind of on a case-by-case basis. Which is interesting because for a short period of time, there were a few manufacturers that were releasing kind of reverse-engineered autofocus lenses onto the market that worked with the RF system. Remember, the only thing that you need to get an EF lens like this Tamron that's over 10 years old to talk to an RF camera is this adapter. This is not crazy complicated. All they'd need to do is put this tech inside the back of this lens and re-release it. And you basically be able to start releasing lenses as third party. We had a couple of manufacturers release a couple of lenses, and then out of nowhere, they all kind of disappeared. And that's when Canon announced that, you know, we'll work with people if they want to on a case-by-case basis. The assumption was that Canon has now released 40 lenses for the RF system. They wanted to get a really big head start, and they wanted to get their lenses in the hands of photographers and videographers.
Ever focused on the future of imaging, Canon continued
their margins because they were able to provide products at a lower cost with similar specs. Maybe not the exact same specs, but again, if this lens, which I think I bought for 1,300 bucks when the Canon equivalent was over 2,000, it's 90% as good a lens. And this one actually has vibration compensation, or IS, which at that time the Canon version did not have. That was a big deal for me. So now fast forward to right now, and this last week we get, an interview from a Canon executive who says there's no restrictions. Anybody can release lenses. Which seems awfully strange to say when previously it was made pretty clear that they weren't going to allow third-party lens manufacturers into the market for RF glass without their stamp of approval. There was either going to be some kind of legal ramifications there or other. We don't know kind of the backroom deals and how that process works, but what we do know is that no one is currently making third-party RF autofocus lenses. You can buy dumb lenses that are manual focus. Some of them are phenomenal, I'm sure, if that's your style of shooting. But if you want to take advantage of the dual pixel autofocus and dual pixel autofocus 2 that exists in these mirrorless cameras with the RF mount, you're kind of stuck with just Canon glass or spending some money with Canon and buying an adapter. There are also third-party adapters, but I've not gotten any of those and tried them out. Let me know down in the comments if you have. I've also not used the Canon one that has the ND filter installed. Okay, so we're all running around with EF glass and we're trying to, maybe make this stuff last a little bit longer, make our investment last a little bit longer before we potentially jump ship into full RF glass inventories while still taking advantage of the technology that exists inside the RF bodies. The assumption was that Canon was holding on to this cash cow I don't know if I would call it a cash cow, but they're trying to hold on to it for as long as they can. So in 2023, when they did an interview with DP Review, Canon said, whenever a third party presents a request to us, we'll consider it based on our business strategy. In fact, we've been communicating with some outside companies, and you may already be aware that here at CP+, Cosina has announced that they will be creating RF lenses of their own. But we haven't seen anything from what I think are the two biggest manufacturers of third-party glass, which is Tamron and Sigma. Again, I have a Tamron lens right here. I'm shooting on a Sigma lens right here. I love their glass. The affordability for professional level glass from these companies is phenomenal. And having them in the market kind of pushes Canon to do new and exciting things, and also, honestly, to manage their prices better. So now, Japanese news site MyNavi sat down with Canon executives, and this is what they had to say just recently. Canon is communicating with third-party manufacturers regarding RF mount lenses. There are no restrictions. He quickly denied speculations that were circulating amongst photography fans. This year marks the 6th year since we introduced the RF system to the world. Our lineup has grown to over 40 lenses. We're thinking about strategies based on our situation and environment. According to Canon, right now, there are no restrictions on the mount. If a vendor wanted to release an EF protocol-based RF lens tomorrow, Canon would be okay with that. So that means effectively that you can release a lens with an RF mount, but that has the EF communication technology into it, which again, there are drawbacks there, but it would at least allow you to release a lens, that would be fine. That doesn't sound like it's worth it to Sigma and Tamron. And again, reporting from MyNavi News in Japan at CP+, when they interviewed the CEO of Sigma, had this to say: I want to think about what I can do, but I can't say if there's anything I can do right now. Unfortunately, I cannot give you any further information on this subject. As I told you last year, we are aware of customer demand in this regard. In fact, this demand is growing stronger and stronger. And at Sigma, we believe that we must respond to this request, but for the moment, we do not have an answer to provide. I don't have a roadmap to announce for the Canon RF mount. And we had previously heard that there were going to be Sigma RF and RFS lenses announced this month in February at CP+, but those haven't happened. We haven't heard anything. And now he's saying, I don't have anything to share. So maybe everything is just wrapped up super, super tight, but what I can tell you is that right now, it sounds like the third-party manufacturers aren't super interested in cobbling together existing lenses using the EF technology and porting it to RF. Meaning basically that if they want to make an RF lens, they want to make a real RF lens where all of these pins do all the work that they're supposed to, and the lens has full access to the capability of the body. Some of the control configurations, like the control rings and that sort of thing, that's one example of some of the improvements that came with the RF mount and the increased bandwidth that came along that throughput. Another example is that with newer Canon lenses, even the EF ones, you can shoot at full frame rate, whereas with older lenses like this Tamron, I can't shoot faster than I think it's 8 or 9 frames a second, whereas with this one, I can shoot up to 20 on my R6. That might be somewhat of a software restriction, but it's in there. So I think the future of this lens mount is definitely a little cloudy, but I think what we're gonna see probably pretty soon is an announcement. Hopefully by the summer, maybe before the Olympics when we have the R1 in hand. But I know that Canon knows that these photographers want access to this additional glass, but I'm sure that they're trying to milk their first party lens profit margins for as long as possible. One bit of good news, Canon says that talks with third-party manufacturers are deeper than they've been in the early days. I don't know what deeper means. Maybe they're finding ways to get deeper into the pockets of these third-party manufacturers with higher fees for licensing this technology. And I totally understand that Canon wants to have more control over their mount, over their access to their chips and their sensors and the technology that they have in their bodies. And they don't want to have crazy cheapo lenses out there. They want to make sure that it's good and that it works. I totally get that. There's a quality control aspect to this, but also it's been 6 years. I think it's time. I think they can do it. I think these third-party manufacturers can handle it, and hopefully we see that soon. So that's where we are at the moment with the RF mount from Canon. If you're a Canon shooter, or if you're someone who is looking to get into Canon, I think that's important to think about. Or if you're currently shooting with an EF body and you're looking to jump into the mirrorless side and really looking and deciding whether or not you want to take your existing glass with you, or if you want to just sell it all and purchase all new RF lenses. What I can tell you is that if you've got glass that you love and it works well, keep it. These adapters are not hard to use. They're about $100. And if you've got a great lens that looks great, that autofocus is fast, and that you just enjoy having it, it feels good in your hand. And I'll use this Tamron as my example. I love this lens. It's great. It's a beefy lens, and I've enjoyed shooting with it over the last decade that I've had it. And it's been to Tamron a couple times for service. There've been some cracked front elements that have needed to get replaced, but honestly, I've never been disappointed by it, and I'm really happy that I have this one and that I didn't end up investing thousands of dollars into an EF version from Canon and then an RF version from Canon. I've just got this one and I throw it on the adapter and it works great. So if that's where you're at, that's something to think about. If you're getting right into the system, obviously you're gonna go mirrorless, you're gonna get mirrorless lenses. Get one started out, or buy some cheap used glass from folks who are trying to get rid of their EF stuff and honestly make a killing on some really great stuff that's out there. That would be my recommendation for somebody just hopping in. Anyway, I hope this has been informative. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, I would really appreciate it if you go and hit the like button, and if you go ahead and subscribe to the channel if this is the type of stuff that you think I should be doing. Also, I released a video a couple weeks ago about a trip that I took to Cedar Breaks National Monument. It's one of my photo adventure trips. I'm going on another one in a few weeks down to southern Utah and northern Arizona area. I'm going to kind of remake a trip that I did back in 2017. There's also a video somewhere about that. And I'm super excited to do so. And I'm super excited that I was able to get this video out for you guys. And I will see you in the next one. And hopefully in a week or so, I'm feeling better. All right. See you guys.